Secretary-General of NATO, standing by. He was listening to some of that press conference. Secretary-General, it's good to have you with us on the programme.
Good to be on the programme. Good afternoon.
Let us pick up with the fast-moving events of the last 48, 72 hours. There is a disconnect between European capitals and the United States on military engagement in Iran. How does that complicate NATO's position?
Well, I would, to the contrary, say that Europeans are really stepping up. When you look at the comments by Chancellor Merz yesterday, who is now flying out to Washington for meetings tomorrow in the White House, absolutely supportive of what the Americans are doing, taking out the nuclear and the ballistic capability in Iran, which is a threat to us in Europe, a threat to Israel, to the region. Keir Starmer yesterday committing to this basing request by the Americans, providing therefore key defensive response to the threat when it comes to what the UK can do. So I think it's really clear that Europe is stepping up, and that's very important.
Did his delay in making UK bases available complicate the operation?
What I understand is that there were some legal things which had to be worked through. That's why it took a couple of days. But I mean, this is early stages of this campaign. It will take days, potentially weeks, before it is finished, finalized. And in the meantime, the UK has now requested positively to this basing request, providing this, basically a defensive response to the threat. I think that's very important.
NATO bases have been put on notice now. Were you told ahead of time that this was about to happen?
I have many conversations always with the Americans. I never go into details with whom and
crucially
about
important
what.
for a NATO Secretary-General to know if there's going to be military action in Iran. Were you told ahead of time?
And that's exactly why I never discuss those things in public, because my conversations with the Americans are discreet. But I can assure you that we make sure that we coordinate very closely.
Okay. Should it have been done with the approval of the US Congress?
Well, this is this whole discussion about legality, and I leave that to people who are much smarter than I am. But I can tell you, I spoke yesterday with many European leaders. They are all extremely glad with this action, with this campaign, because we know that Iran is a threat today. It is not only oppressive at home, it is also aggressive when it comes to Europe, to Israel, to the whole region. It is a terrorist regime. And clearly, therefore, a threat to London, to Hamburg, to my own hometown, The Hague. When it comes to terrorism, it is a threat to Ukraine because they are one of the key enablers of Russia's war effort. So what I'm seeing all over Europe is widespread support for what the US is doing.
Well, yes, it is being welcomed that the Ayatollah has been removed, and they are not pointing the finger at Donald Trump in terms of legality. So you say the European position is changing. Do you imagine then that NATO forces will soon be involved offensively?
The European position is not changing. What I'm saying is that the European position has always been, since 1980, for 45 years now, 46 years, that Iran is a threat, that this regime is a threat, not the Iranian people, but the regime is a threat.
So are you saying that NATO forces NATO as an alliance will be involved in Iran at some point?
No, this is clearly a campaign led by the Americans and the Israelis. But what we are seeing now is that when it comes to NATO allies, but also friends in the region, which are now under indiscriminate attacks by Iran. They are hitting out at Dubai, at Bahrain, at Oman, at other Gulf nations, hitting innocent civilians. So what we are now seeing is that allies, wherever they can enable the US campaign together with Israel, they are doing that.
What is the current mood of the Arab Gulf countries? And do you imagine, given the pummeling they've taken in the last 72 hours, that they are going to be joining strike operations? Because we've just been told by Dan Kane that they're involved in an offensive capacity. Does that mean that their air forces might soon be in operation over Iran?
Let's see how this develops over the next hours and days. But what I know from the Gulf nations is, of course, they totally condemn the fact that they have come under this indiscriminate attacks by Iran, which is basically lashing out now at its neighbors in the region, totally without any military reason, because they're hitting out at hotels and innocent civilians all over the region. So this is totally crazy. And this tells you something about the character of this regime and what they're willing and what they are up to. And therefore it is extremely important that also myself and Ursula von der Leyen coming out, the European Commission President on this, also we're coordinating closely with partners in the region, that we really stay shoulder to shoulder here.
RAF Akrotiri is under attack. There's been another drone fired at the base today. Families are being evacuated. What are you doing as Secretary General to step up the defence of those bases, and particularly from the threat of Shahed drones?
I can assure you that when it comes to NATO territory, of course Cyprus is not a NATO, but NATO territory generally, we make sure that we are vigilant. Our senior commanders are on this constantly. I'm in constant contact with them. I'm, as always, extremely impressed by our senior military people. And there are two kinds of threat. One is, of course, the regime posing a threat potentially to countries which are enabling what the US is doing, but also when it comes to the terrorist threat, we also have to be conscious of that, which is already there now for over 45 years. I know in my own country where members of the Iranian diaspora were in the Netherlands under attack by Iran. We have seen assassinations all over Europe. So let's not forget with what type of regime we are dealing with. And this is exactly the reason why all of us in Europe are extremely glad with what the Americans are doing here, because it's crucial that they cannot get their hands on this nuclear and ballistic capability. It will be the end of Israel. It will be a huge threat to Europe.
Well, you seem convinced by the objective of regime change. Is that what has been spelled out to you by the Secretary of War and by Marco Rubio? Is it regime change?
I'm not talking to you about regime change. What I'm telling you is that I'm happy that these capabilities are degraded. This war is at early stage. We will see over the coming days and weeks how this will develop. But I can tell you one thing. I hope for sure that Iranian people will have a vote in their own future government. And secondly, I expect when this ends that Iran is not any longer an exporter of chaos to the region, an exporter of chaos to Europe, an exporter of chaos to Ukraine by enabling the Russian war effort, degrading all those capabilities.
My time is very limited. Just final question. How do you imagine this is going to affect the war in Ukraine? First of all, the US support for it, and also the supply of those Shahed drones to Russia.
Well, first of all, let's be conscious of the fact that the US is providing key military enablement to Ukraine, paid for by European and Canadian allies, including crucial interceptors. Let's not forget that Iran, through the Shahed drones, is one of the main providers of military support to Russia to wage that war against Ukraine. This will no doubt have a huge impact on the potential for Ukraine to continue doing that, so that's positive. Yeah. And we have to make sure that also going forward, Ukraine has what it needs to stay as strong as possible in the fight. And I will do everything I can to make that happen. Before we let you go, we're looking at a new live picture. It's just coming into us now of a strike in South Beirut. It does look as though this war is expanding. Are you at all concerned about the chaos that might ensue? Of course, we hope that as few people from Israel or the United States will be involved in terms of lethality, and my thoughts are with the U.S. service members who made the ultimate sacrifice, and that this ends as soon as possible. But this can, as the President said yesterday, President Trump, this can take days, it might even take weeks. But it is really important that he did this. He is the leader of the free world. He is making us all safer by making sure that Iran is severely degraded when it comes to its capacity to create chaos in the region, in Europe, all over the world. Secretary General, very grateful for your time. Thank you for coming on the BBC. Thank you so much.